happen. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to Town Hall and the Placerville City Council meeting of September 10th. I'll call the meeting to order at this time and ask everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And again, good evening, and good evening to all our department heads and staff that are present this evening. Appreciate your participation in this evening's meeting. Go ahead and ask the clerk to go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mayor Acuna.
Here.
Vice Mayor Saragosa.
Here.
Councilmember Borelli.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Thank you, Aaron. Aaron is filling in for Regina, who is off on city clerk training. We appreciate your attendance this evening. You picked a nice, quiet meeting to come to. I'm sure it will be. I'm confident this is going to run smoothly tonight. Announcements to the public. This is the time when the council can make brief announcements to the public. I'll ask Vice Mayor Saragosa first if he had any comments to share this evening.
No, just I mean, we were all. I know you were under the weather, Mayor, but we all were at the attendance of the homeless joint meeting with South Lake Tahoe and the Board of Supervisors. I thought it was a good briefing by the county staff and the consultants, as well as really getting a sense of what everybody's doing, as well as an update from the HOT team from the Sheriff's Department. So that was very helpful for me just to get a little bit better understanding of what's going on. What's not going on in some cases as well. So that was good. Went to SAGHOG and had a great time at the staff appreciation dinner, and just want to thank all the staff that volunteered and helped on that, as well as my council colleagues, especially Councilwoman Kara, that really saved my bacon and helped me out on the whole thing. So
No
thank
pun
you.
intended.
Yes, exactly. That's it.
Thank you. And I think I'll turn to Councilmember Taylor. Do you have any comments this evening, Kara?
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to Rebecca Neves in the engineering department for reopening the bike trail ahead of schedule by Forney Road, so that the walking trail and the bike trail is now open for people to use, which is really exciting. And then, as Vice Mayor Saragosa mentioned, we had the joint meeting on homelessness, and it was really well attended by the public. Some things that I took away from that was that we are in the process of the strategic plan. It's going to be about a year before that's done, which is a little frustrating, but it does sound like we're heading in the direction of some long-term solutions in terms of housing and shelters, so that was encouraging. And then just we had the staff appreciation party, which was great. And Dennis and I met with some city staff to start working on upgrading our communication strategy for the city. So,
Awesome. Which brings me to Councilmember Dennis Thomas.
Well, thank you. I attended my first meeting with the Opportunity Knox and the COC, which is, as Kara was talking about, the program for the homelessness. This is where the design and the development of those programs reside with this organization, and it's ran by the health department, and so I'm just getting my feet wet there. I'll have more to go. It's a quarterly meeting. We might be meeting a little more frequently depending on how the development of the program goes. And then, one of the things on top of this is we may hear about this at some point tonight, but the HOT team is one of the things that have come out of this is the coordination of the HOT team between the city, and actually it has a lot to do with our chief's initiation of this process, but we got a report on that, and hopefully we talk about that more this evening. That was an excellent opportunity for our police department to work with the sheriff's department and the health department to bring more services and help the homeless rather than moving them back and forth between the city and the county. And so that's been a really good thing. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Patty?
Same ditto
Same
to
stuff?
everything, yeah. I will say this, though, that we almost all suffered heat stroke at that meeting. That was the hottest meeting we've ever, we had at
This is in the- at
the
the
organ
fairgrounds?
room at the fairgrounds. Oh, my gosh, it was just awful. And I just commend everybody, all those speakers and everybody that presented the program for us. And we did learn and share a lot. Our chief of police was there, and I thought gave a really good report on what we've been doing here in Placerville and how we're going to join forces. And as Dennis said, we've got to, and I think the whole consensus was we've got to work together. We can't keep doing everybody trying to do their own thing, and, so it's going to be fun. And also, my thanks to staff and the rest of the council for our employee party. We had a wonderful time. And I know they all appreciated it. The kids all went swimming, and it was great, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I'll go ahead and add a couple of announcements for myself. Congratulate the Goldbug Development Committee for their successful operation of another Priest Mine tour over the Labor Day weekend. I understand they had right at 200 new guests, most of whom were new first-time visitors to the park. Took advantage of the Priest Mine, which is closed except for very special tours, and they are the group that conducts those. So thank them for their work and for their efforts to continue to attract new visitors out there. I believe they've also won another regional destination award, and then more will be coming on that soon. So it's truly a gold mine, no pun intended. I would also congratulate our Park and Rec staff. The 2030 Club had their annual swing event out at Lions Park, and it looked like they tested it to its maximum, and she strained and stressed, but it survived. Hopefully they won't have any more teams than were there this year, but thank you to staff that went through a lot of extra work to make sure that the neighborhoods, as well as the traveling public and the participants of the softball tournament, were safe and were able to get in and out of the park. I do believe we probably had an emergency. I heard the fire and ambulance go down there on Saturday midday. So it's important to have a well-organized event. So thank you to Terry and all those folks that worked over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to keep that big event. We're talking 70 softball teams from all over Northern California descended on Lions Park for 3 days, and they partied hardy. So, congratulations to them, and I hope the 2030 Club raised a significant amount of money because it always goes to a good cause. I apologize for not being present at the homeless workshop. I was under the weather. From what you just described, Petty, I would have been even further under the weather, suffering from a shellfish allergy that I now suddenly have. So, I apologize for that, and I appreciate my fellow council members chipping in because, as they've said, this is important to make this a regional approach. We know one organization is going to address this tremendous issue. So it's probably not a lot showing to the public, but there are tremendous organizational steps that are making good progress, and the results will soon become apparent. And until then, I'll just thank the Placerville PD for their 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week representation for the city of Placerville, because they do deal with the homeless 7 days a week. Middle of the day, middle of the night. They are our first line resource right now. So until we can get these other programs, thank you, Chief, to your staff that steps up. A lot of that is voluntary to learn more and coordinate and work with the various homeless organizations. So, and then also, as has been mentioned, it's nice to have the new council members. We had our employee awards dinner. It's actually just an employee thank you barbecue. We own a city pool, so we found it good to use it one last time. And what better way than to reward our employees for all the effort that they put in. And I think that's the big goal, is team building and recognition. And we have folks there from Public Works and PD and all the different departments, and they do, again, work 7 days a week, and they do come out in winter and et cetera. So this is our way of thanking them, and we, with Kara's skills, we took the event to a whole nother level. So I look forward to next year's.
Gave them lots of food.
Gave them tons of food. So again, all right. Thank you very much for those comments. We'll move on to closed session report, and I'd never like to miss an opportunity to speak with my city attorney. Mr. Driscoll, do you have anything to report this evening?
No, sir, we did not have closed session tonight.
Thank you very much. Adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt?
Move for adoption.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor? Aye. It was seconded by Councilmember Thomas. Motion was by Councilmember Burrell. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on to ceremonial matters. We have none scheduled this evening. This brings us on to public comment. This is the portion of the meeting when the public is invited to speak with the council on an item, any item that is not on the agenda this evening. We do ask that you restrict your comments to issues that are pertinent to business of the city council, that you conduct yourself in a civil manner, and that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. I'm going to ask the city clerk / city manager for written comments that we've received this evening, which they are numerous.
Mayor and Council, you have three written items of communication in your agenda packet that were included. They are all related to items 11.1 and 11.2 on your agenda tonight. So you can consider those at that point. And then you have several other items. I'm not going to go through all of those that were provided since the agenda was posted, some as late as today. And you have copies of all of those in a folder that was provided to you tonight. So, and they are also related to items 11.1 and 11.2.
All right, thank you, Cleve, thank you, Aaron, for putting them keeping them identified for us, because we have a lot of paper up here. All right, now I will go ahead and ask for oral communications, and this evening we have someone that has signed up, Arnie Johnson, who would like to speak to the council regarding Lumsden Park, which is a non-agendized item, but we would certainly like to hear from you. Good evening, sir. You could approach the podium. Appreciate you filling out a speaker form.
Thank you. I'd like to address an item that was on the last city council's agenda in regards to Lumsden Park. My understanding of the problem is that people are vandalizing the bathrooms, littering, breaking the water pipes, conducting illegal activities in the park, and causing fires. The solution would be to weld the gates, to close the bathrooms, tear down the privacy walls, or demolish the bathrooms. Also turning off the water to the lawns to avoid broken pipes. This will solve the problem. In my opinion, demolition of the bathroom would be the last resort after other measures are tried. Tearing down the privacy walls, adding additional lighting in the park, clearly marking the hours the park is open with additional signs, the consequences of the violation of park rules, increased patrols by STAR and the police, and adding cameras, even if they're fake, would decrease the vandalizing of the bathrooms, littering, broken pipes, and other illegal activities. Maybe the water can be turned on and locked off at the main when the areas need to be watered. This should reduce these problems, but will not eliminate them. Why, you might ask? I believe that the cause of these problems are not being addressed. What is causing these problems? For the most part, it's the homeless that live in this area on private land. None of these measures address the fires that have started in this area along with the rest of these problems. Who's accountable for that land? That's a huge issue. We must start somewhere. To begin with, pulling every resource we have together to develop a plan is a must, which it sounds like you guys have been doing a really good job at starting that. A town hall and a special committee to develop and implement this plan is an urgent need. We must find temporary housing and/or campgrounds for the homeless to live. We need to look at city, county, state, and private properties to develop a home for these people. Using the campgrounds as a temporary housing could be part of the solution while this is being developed. Looking at current structures like the old juvenile hall or maybe the sheriff's department might be a resource. We cannot enforce laws without providing a place to live for this population. We must hold landowners accountable for what's happening on their properties. We are the county seat. It will take all of us working together to create a positive living environment for all. Winter's on the way. Let's start today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. If you'd like to leave a copy of that with the city clerk, that would be fine. If not, that's good too. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is there another member of the public wishing to address the council on a non-agendized item? Seeing no one else approaching the podium, I'll close public comment this evening, and I'll ask the city manager, Cleve, where are we at bringing back the Lumsden Park next?
We were
next
close
step?
for this meeting. However, we had a couple more items we wanted to review and look at, so we hope to have that ready for your next council meeting.
Okay, good. So hopefully a meeting the 28th,
24th.
24th. Don't rush it along. It's going fast enough. All right. Thank you, Cleve. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Brings us on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar will be considered under one motion unless a member of the council wishes to have an item removed for further discussion. Is there any member of the council wishing to remove any items this evening? Let me ask if there's any member of the public that wishes to address the council on any of the consent calendar items. Seeing no one approaching, I'll go ahead and ask if there's a motion for the consent calendar.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Been moved by Councilmember Borelli, and seconded by Vice Mayor Zaragoza. Okay, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please, because we're always spending money.
Mayor Kuna.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
The consent calendar is adopted, and this moves us on to ordinances, which we have none this evening. I will note at this time that the items 11.1 and 11.2, by agreement with the appellants, is not to be heard before 7:30. The first appellant is in a meeting and is not available until that time. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward to the items, discussion and action items. And that would be item 12.1, authorize the city manager to sign a letter of intent to Amgen Tour of California to indicate the city's intent to be a host city for 2020. Cleve, I would think you'd have an exciting report for us on this one. We're moving right up the ladder fast.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, the last couple of years, the Amgen Tour of California has come through Placerville, and it's been a fun-filled day with activities and et cetera that we've had to welcome the riders as they came through. Been very successful. Amgen has approached the city several times over the last year to talk about us potentially being a host city for a start of one of the legs of the Tour of California race. This year they have approached us again and said that they are extremely interested in Placerville being a host city. Those final decisions have not been made yet. I want to emphasize the letter that is proposed for you tonight. I want to also emphasize is only a letter of intent that would obligate us to does not obligate us to anything unless we can reach agreement with them. There's a agreement that they have that we would negotiate with them, go through a fairly lengthy process to determine what we would provide and what they would provide as part of us being a host city. I did include with this report a list from Amgen what the responsibilities we would have as a tour city. However, I want to emphasize that some of those items are negotiable with them and are not set in stone that we necessarily would have to do those. Based on our analysis, I've been working with the El Dorado County Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Director for El Dorado County on what we think costs might be to try and do this. We met with the city of Rancho Cordova, who was a host start city last year, and we reviewed what their costs were. And based on that, we came up with a potential cost that we think might be as much as $70,000. And that's a very rough number at this point. We also looked at this and feel that fairly comfortable that we would be able to bring between $30,000 and $40,000 in sponsorships for this, which would cover approximately half of the cost. The remaining half, we think that would be between us and the county to come up with that funding. Based on that, I looked at approximately $15,000, so a total of $30,000, $15,000 for us and $15,000 for the county. That could vary based on what we decide to do. There may be a different percentage that we are able to negotiate with the county. I have spoken to the county CAO and District 3 Board of Supervisor Brian Veerkamp. They were both extremely interested in us doing this and becoming a host city for the Amgen Tour of California. So what you have before you tonight is a simple letter that requests to the representatives of Amgen that we are interested in being a host city, and if we are selected and can reach agreement on the provisions of a contract for that, they would then have that opportunity to select us as a host city. I will say that if we are able to do this, it's not definite, but it's fairly certain that if we can reach agreement that we would be a host city. I also want to just quickly mention that I've asked our Community Services Director, Terry Zeller, in conjunction with Jody Franklin from the Chamber of Commerce and Kyle Zimmerman from the County Economic Development to be co-chairs of a committee that would set this up and run it. And they have, I think, agreed on the last meeting that I had with them, and they have agreed that they would do that. And they're very excited to see this happen. So I think that concludes my report. I would be happy, either myself or Terry can answer any questions that you might have on where we're at. Probably should mention the date of the tour for next year is the week of May 10th through the 16th. We don't have the exact date. We've been given some ideas, but we don't have an exact date of when we would be. But it would be on a weekday, probably on the Thursday of that week, but we don't know for sure yet. Other issues that we will be dealing with, we have 2 potential start locations. One, it would be at the fairgrounds, and we've talked to fairgrounds staff about that, and they are open to that. The other would be right here on Main Street, which would be a nice start location, but presents some interesting challenges for parking because there are some pretty substantial parking requirements just for tour officials, tour teams, and et cetera. So that's another issue, and we've had discussions with them, think that it could work, but we still need to do some more work on that. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor, for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Cleve. Council member questions at this time for Cleve?
I don't, well,
Questions?
yeah.
No comments?
No, I'll wait, because
All right.
I do have questions, but it concerns
Very good.
other things.
Kara, did you have any questions at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, nothing down here. All right. Well, what I want to do is then go ahead and open this item up to the public. Item 12.2, the consideration for to be a host city in May 2020 for the MGen Tour. Is there any member of the public wishing to address the council on this item? Seeing no one approaching the podium, I'll close the public comment on this and bring it back to the staff. Now, Patty, did you have a
Well,
comment?
it just, when reading this, it's like overwhelming and monumental. It's like, wow.
Yeah, that's why I say
That's
we
a lot.
rose to the top really fast.
It's a lot to take on, but I feel confident, especially having Jody Franklin involved, because she does this kind of thing all the time, and I'm sure this is just a nothing to her, So
Well,
I just,
maybe not a nothing.
well, I'm talking
bigger
about
something.
I'm talking about
She's got the
planning for it and
resource.
everything.
She has the
She just
resources.
does this all the time, and I think that if she didn't, you've already been in conversation, you said, with her, and if she didn't feel confident that we could take something like this on, then so. But I just think it'd be a wonderful thing for us. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but there again, we're always trying to promote ourselves and let people know we're here and show them what we've got. And what a wonderful way to do it, because this is actually worldwide thing. I know the way it's broadcast and everything, so people would certainly, find out about us. So.
Dennis?
Just, go ahead, Dennis. You want to?
Go ahead, Dennis.
I know that we've worked hard over the last couple of years
That's what I meant.
in developing a following for this event. And I know that we've worked with the schools, we've worked with organizations to bring people out. We have decorated our town. And from the very first meeting, our goal was to figure out how to get our Amgen to start here. And I don't know if this is be careful what you ask for, or be happy that all of our efforts were for naught. And one of the things that we have heard, and we've shared this information before, is that we are I would say, the best mid-race town that they have ever had. And this is their words, not ours. And it's because our community came out in a big way to celebrate it, and it was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun. So, I'm in strong support of us moving forward with this. I think we can find the way to do this. I know that the county and other organizations want a partnership with us. We can find corporate sponsorships that'll help defray the costs for the city, and they'll also get a lot of visibility. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. So I'm looking forward to it, hopefully.
Yeah, same thing on my end. I think I kind of look at this the way the community has adopted National Night Out. and how much, goes into it, and just the community involvement. I think we can do a great job here. Same thing, I think we can get corporate sponsorship. I'm certainly willing to roll up my sleeves and go out and try to help, defray the cost to the general fund. And so I want to be able to do that. And I think it's just a great thing for the city to be able to have that, not notoriety, but really the publicity that this would bring to us. And I think the only thing that I wish was different was that it'd be 2021 so that we could have potentially a hotel somewhere that we could get some TOT from. But, that's another thing. Maybe we'll get it again, in other years as well.
This might help to promote
Yes,
it.
exactly. It underscores the fact that we need beds.
The fact we need a hotel.
Yes. So again, I'm in strong support of this.
Thank you, Michael. Kara?
I think that this would be great for Placerville. My one concern is if a lot of the marketing is really promoting the county and the city is not going to see much actual benefit in terms of dollars from that, then maybe negotiate the percentage paid with the county to reflect that and be proportional. But I'm happy to move forward with the letter of intent, and I think that it would be great for Placerville to have this event here. So,
Well, thank you all for your comments. Before I ask for a motion, I'll just briefly comment, thank Cleve for the research that he did, because we all just went through the budget, and we know how important every single dollar is. And you look at the beginning numbers before he works on it, and that's a lot of money, $60,000, $70,000. That's a serious investment for us. But when you realize that the community partnerships that do exist that are going to significantly reduce that, the fact that we have done our homework and we have worked very hard, as Dennis said, and a big part of that is Cleve's participation. And his ride along this last year was kind of like the ultimate. He got the inside view, and so with the Amgen organization. So I would compliment Cleve on setting up the co-chairing as he has. I think that's very appropriate. It's Terry in his powerhouse, and it absolutely puts Jody over to Chamber and hers. And Kara, I think your concern can be easily addressed to make sure, because we're going to be the starting point, so we'll be able to focus that. But it's an excellent observation. We need to make sure that we get bang for our buck. Hugely popular. Really look forward to it. So I would ask if there's a motion.
I'll move the item.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Cleve. You'll get to be, what do you get to ride in this year if you're in the starting city? Cleve got to ride in the official pace car last year. Yeah.
All the way from Sacramento.
All the way from, Rancho Cordova,
Cordova.
this last year. So it's taken a lot of hard work, and it's taken a lot of community commitment. So that's a congratulations to everybody. And Patty, you've been on that committee these last 2 years, and you've done a great job, as a whole lot of other members of the community. So look forward to seeing that.
There's such enthusiasm.
Vice Mayor, if you're successful, next year being mayor, wow, you get to do Amgen.
It's really a pleasure to serve on it because everybody's just so pumped.
Tremendous enthusiasm. Yeah, it is, truly is. All right, 12.2, appoint 2 city council members to work with staff to develop a plan to minimize events that close Main Street. Cleve, turning to you again, sir.
Yeah, just quickly on this one, Mayor and Council, at your last meeting, you requested that this item be reviewed in terms of when we close Main Street and perhaps a policy or direction of when that happens. I suggested that we have a couple of council members appointed to a subcommittee that could meet with staff and with the primary group, which is the Downtown Association, that asked for those closures to take place. There are others, such as the Lions Club for the car show and those, but we should hopefully establish some guidelines for when we will allow that to happen, what location. We had a good example this last weekend with the Wanderlust was actually held on Upper Main rather than Lower Main that it's been put on in the past. So just some interesting scenarios and some things that came out of that I think we can use to address those issues. So we're just asking that you appoint 2 council members to work with us on that, and we'll put together some plans and meet with PDA and talk about what can and can't be done and to keep it moving forward.
Cleve, what do you see as a time frame for this committee to meet and then for them to come back to the council and the public with their findings?
We had not really set that, but, so it'll be up to, if the council wants to request it to come back by a certain date, you can do that, or you can leave it to the two committee members to address that within the committee.
Who else is going to be on the?
I would probably have Terry again, Terry Zeller, because he handles the permits for
Hasn't let
special
Jen in.
events.
For him, Jen?
And then I would probably assist with that if necessary.
Probably somebody from PD.
I was going to say PD, probably.
Yeah, we'll have PD involved with it too. And then,
And maybe law enforcement.
Oh, I meant PD, Police Department.
Oh, I thought you meant downtown.
No, that's PDA.
Oh, excuse me.
yeah.
I lost a letter.
They don't get to carry guns.
Oh, okay.
So,
Who would like to be on this committee? I have plenty to do right now,
I'll
so.
volunteer. I'm not on any,
Dennis and Councilmember Borelli?
Okay.
All right, we'll need a motion then to create this committee. Is there somebody like to make a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion that we nominate Councilmember Thomas and Borelli for this ad hoc committee.
I'll second that.
All right, and just one clarification, and we will be working with PDA for the 2020 schedule. So we will want to do this quickly so that we can be fair to all the people that may or may not be signing up with them. All right, with that, I'll ask for a roll. Let's see, I'll just ask for all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? What?
did you do public comment on that? Do you
No, I
know?
didn't. Pardon me. Backing up. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment on item 12.2, the creation of a committee to address the 2020 street closures for Main Street? I'm sorry.
You just didn't want to hear from me.
Oh, I
did you?
always want to hear from you.
Sue
Good evening, Sue.
Rodman, Placerville resident. And I think it's time to call a halt to the frequent Main Street closures. Placerville's Main Street is not a fairgrounds, and it's time to stop using it like one. If these events are worth having, the sponsors should be willing to pay the increased cost for the fairgrounds. Other foothill communities use their fairgrounds for events like these Main Street closure events. For example, Sonora holds these type of events at their fairgrounds, and it works well for them. I asked one Main Street merchant for feedback on these closures and was told they get no sales. All people coming into the shop want to do is use the restroom. People attending the Antiques Fair even use their paid leased parking space. Last week, I gave up on my plan to do some shopping on Main Street. Both days when I saw the event signs, the car show Thursday and the wine event on Saturday, I was even warned by one business, be sure to get here early because Main Street will be closed. Closing Main Street detours heavy traffic to Pacific Street, which is much too narrow to handle people parking on both sides for these Main Street events and then walking on the street. It creates a hazardous situation for everyone, the pedestrians, the cars, and for emergency traffic. Pacific Street is a main ambulance route to get to Marshall hospitals. Lives depend on the ambulance being able to get to the hospital. Public safety is being put at risk by these Main Street events. With a few exceptions, the wagon train, the Festival of Lights, the Christmas parade, and trick or treat on Main Street, I think all the rest of these Main Street closure events could and should be held at the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds would provide increased public safety and parking, plus better restroom facilities. I support appointing a subcommittee to review these Main Street closures with an objective to minimize them. Perhaps they could also work with the county on the fee schedule for the fairgrounds.
Thank you, Sue. And we appreciate a copy of that to our clerk. Is there another member of the public wishing to address the council on 12.2? Good evening, Mr. Smithson. Nice to see you here this evening. I hope you're recovering.
Nice to see you. I chatted with Sue earlier.
Could you raise?
And as always, appreciate her thoughtful comments.
Thank you.
I would suggest that the subject of street closures needs first actual analysis in a business-like fashion. And that once you do that, it's not going to be such an easy question. It's hard to quantify the success of street events casually by just the numbers. For example, the largest event on Main Street that the PDA is involved in is the Brew Festival. Lots of people come in, but it doesn't bring any business generally to the people surrounding them. And it's popular, or at least tolerated by every merchant, because it generates tremendous revenue for PDA. At the same time, you look at a crowd that's much smaller, like the recent antique fair, and that's enormously successful if you look at one of the goals of PDA events, and that is that it brings in people from all over. Yes, it's true. People who go to the Brewfest might be that generation that likes Costco and IKEA and so on and doesn't value antiques. But there's a large following. So you have these wonderful photographic postcards in antique fairs all over the state. So we get people from San Francisco, the Bay Area generally, all kinds of places throughout the state. So when you're evaluating it, what I've done is talk to people at the Carry House, and they have increased bookings. People come in for the weekend, and they'll be the first ones on the street looking for bargains and looking for the best selection. Places like the Bookery, you'd be surprised, but they have more business during the antique fair. Same thing for pop art and some of the number of the other galleries, because that kind of crowd isn't there for the beer, they're there for culture and what's offered. And I've asked merchants that go to these other places, these vendors, how does ours compare? And it always gets extraordinarily hard marks. You ask one why, and the guy will point to the Carry House and the ambience of the Main Street, the historic character. So that brings people here, and you can quantify the success that way. As for people who saw those brochures, thousands of them over the previous months, they look at it and they say, well, we can't come that weekend, but we'll come some other time. We don't have any way of measuring that. Take the beer bus to the fairgrounds. That could probably work, and they wouldn't care. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is there another member of the public wishing to address the council on 12.2? Good evening, Kathy.
Good evening, Mayor Acuna and members of the council. I just wanted to say, as long as you're on this topic, I was shocked on Saturday to find chain link fences up, all up and down that area of Main Street, and that some people were told they couldn't come in to go to a restaurant, which someone else said that wasn't true. I had signed up to volunteer. It didn't work out. I mean, it was very disorganized. But I was shocked that people could not come in to go to a restaurant. I think they worked it out. But because someone that was helping put it on said, well, they would get a free concert. But I don't think we have anything else on Main Street that doesn't allow people to attend. And it was put on by the Winery Association, and that's not a city group.
Thank you, Kathy. Is there any other member of the public wishing to address the council on this item? Seeing no one else approaching the podium, I will go ahead and close the public comment. Okay. Well, let me just...
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Mr. Morris. We never want to forget. Listen to our... Councilmember Thomas.
Oh, thank you. Just a point of clarification, it was put on a cooperation with the Downtown Merchants Association and the Wine Association, so it did have some connection to the Merchants Association downtown.
And it was this year's wine event on Main Street.
Yeah, well,
correct?
normally downtown has art and wine.
That's right.
Or wine and art, depending on what
So
year you
this
do
was
it.
in place of.
And this was in place of that.
So this was an attempt to kind of relocate, rethink the wine
Rethink,
and
broaden,
art.
and,
Yeah.
build partnerships with our community, our broader community of businesses, and so, yeah.
But it did have so it was the PDA's wine event for this fall. Thank you, Dennis. That's important to know. All right, so we have had our public comment. I believe there was a motion.
We already, we did the whole thing.
No, we didn't vote. They stopped me before
No.
we called for the vote. So, and there's a motion did we vote? No, we didn't vote. All right, all those in favor of appointing Councilmember Thomas and Councilmember Borelli to a two-person committee to review Main Street closures? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 12.3, authorize the mayor and the city manager to prepare and sign a letter to response to the Court Facilities Advisory Committee statewide list of trial court capital outlay projects. We have a draft letter, a court transfer letter, and a judicial support letter in here from Mr. Morris. I believe we're working you tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you recall, the governor previously last year froze all court funding for new capital projects and requested that a committee be appointed to reevaluate all of the projects and prioritize those. That report is due by the end of this year. A draft report was released at the end of August. That report came out and listed Placerville as opposed to previously being, I would say, towards the top of that list as a critical need, was now moved to 2 layers down from they have immediate need, critical need, and then high need. We did not meet the immediate or critical need for a replacement of the, or repair or anything to the Placerville Courthouse. And speaking with the county, they have prepared a letter just pointing out some issues with that. It's not clear. It's as simple a point system is all we could see in terms of how we scored. On security, we scored a 5, which is the highest you could score. On physical condition of the courthouse, we scored a 2.7 out of 5, which was a little bit surprising to me, but I don't know, I can't protest that really, because I don't know how that, I don't know the condition of other courthouses and how that compared and what they were looking at. So, but I did want to raise that issue. So we are recommending, I am recommending to the council that we authorize the mayor and city manager to prepare and sign this letter to send to the Court Facilities Advisory Committee at the Judicial Council and ask them to, consider our points that are in this letter. This is draft only at this point. If there's other aspects that the council would like to see in the letter or changes, we're open to that, and we can make those changes prior to sending it. The letter is due, the comments are due to the Judicial Council by the 13th of September, so we have 3 days to get this in. And it would be sent by email is what they have requested, so we can meet that guideline. So we presented some options to you as to send the letter pretty much as written, or recommend different content for that for us to prepare and send, or do not authorize the letter at this time and let it stand as is. So with that, I will take any comments and questions or questions the council may have.
Any questions for Cleve?
Just one. So originally the court was in the first tier, so now we're in the tertiary tier, I guess, the 3rd tier. Is that accurate?
That's probably a good description. If you looked at the list before, we were number 1 or 2, right towards the top of that. I have heard some people have questioned whether or not that was really a prioritization list, or was that just a list of the projects that they were focusing on at the time. So I don't know if they really had it categorized the way they do now, but I do know that they were seriously moving forward with that courthouse. They did a lot of work on it, and it was at the top of the list at that time.
And they didn't provide the methodology for how they did these 1 through 5 rankings.
Well, they do provide a document that is online that talks about that methodology as how they went through that, but there's nothing from that methodology relating to the scoring that would tell us why they arrived at that score for the El Dorado Courthouse. So,
Patty, question for Cleve?
Right. Along those same lines, I was going to ask you, were you able to see any kind of a list of who scored higher than we did, or the
yeah, the complete list is online.
It is
for you to
online?
look at, yes.
So then my next question too is, and we talked about this the other day, Judge Kingsbury has been just so instrumental in trying to push this project. Is she involved? Have you had discussions with her?
She is working with the county on preparing
With
a
the
letter
county.
also. So
Okay.
yes, she will be part of that, yes.
What's so disturbing to me is the things that we're presenting in the letter. I think the letter's great, but it's the same thing we have been telling them for all these many years, and it's like it's falling on deaf ears. And I just am, when you told me this, my heart just sank. because I really thought that, we presented a good reason, a good picture, and for all of the reasons that's been stated in this letter. So I was wondering why the folks that did score higher, or not the folks, but the area, why, again, are we being, are we being put upon because we're this little town up here, as I keep, saying, we keep being taken advantage of, I think,
Yeah. I took a look at the list, and it's, it varies. There's things, there's Los Angeles, but then there's small counties as well. I know
that scored higher than we
that scored
did?
higher. I know the county of Monterey was upset because their Greenfield courthouse was also, at least they thought, was at a higher level, quite a higher level, and then now we're in the same kind of position that we're in. And so I know they were doing quite a bit of pushback as well from their
Right.
board of supervisors and from the city of Greenfield. I think kind of like what we're looking at here, because it was a complete surprise to them that they had dropped, if you will, to that, and there's really no why you could go from one, and it's in their own words too. The reality is the courts themselves has deemed this not to be obsolete and not fit, and in fact, it makes me even more angry because we have been dedicated to improving the freeway with the western, with the interchange out there. And so we've put a lot of our money forward to do this and a lot of time into doing this. And for the courts now to drop us is really a slap in the face to the community. And so to the extent we do the letter, I think that's great, but I think we even should do more than that as well, because we ourselves have a lot invested in the future of that courthouse.
Well, the very fact, like you said, that the court wouldn't even take the courthouse.
Cleve said that. They don't want it. Karen, did you have any questions, comments?
Well, echoing Michael
Questions at this point,
Zaragoza's
really.
comments is, I think the letter is necessary and is well done, but the whole situation is really infuriating. So it's just unbelievable. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'll go ahead and open public comment on this item. Is there a member of the public wishing to address the council on item 12.3, which is to send a letter stating the need for a replacement courthouse? Seeing no member of the public approaching, I'll go ahead and close public comment in 12.3, bring it back to the council. I had kind of the same idea as I thought, maybe a little less. It seems like we've said all this over, something maybe a little bit more focused. I think, did we plagiarize this from the county letter?
Somewhat. They sent us our draft, we made revisions and sent it back to them, and they took some of our revisions and implemented into their letters. So, yeah, it's a combination of theirs and ours, so.
What are your thoughts, Dennis?
Is there an opportunity to appear before this committee to plead our case as well?
Not that I have seen that's been identified at this point. I don't know, Michael, if you know the process perhaps?
Yeah, I think we'd have to, go, we could research the AOC, which is the Administrative Office of the Courts, and see when they actually take this up again. But we could certainly go and request a meeting with the AOC, with the executive director of it. And I think that's something we should do.
You're talking about going with our representatives from the county or going by ourselves?
Either
All the
or.
above, yeah.
Yeah.
Patty?
When all this started, there was a contingency, did go down and meet with in San Francisco, and they were so impressed with what we brought forth as a team. That's what impressed them more than anything, is that we were all, working together. And so it is possible, but I think it would be a difficult thing. If we're on a timeline, I'm not too sure.
Well, I think, Dana, you're referring in the future. Next step, send a letter now, follow it up.
On the
request for a
13th,
meeting.
though, are they gonna make a decision on the when all
The
this is
report
said?
is not due until the end of this year, so I don't know if they are
there's
going
time
to
for
take
more
comments and relook at it, I'm not sure, but I know it's not due till the end of this year. So I was a little bit surprised when I saw it come out now, but perhaps that's because there's additional work they need to do to finalize it, so.
I have a question for Cleve. You
Yes.
said something in your beginning of your report about we didn't. The courthouse ranked 5th. It rated number 5, or it was given a 5 rating in security.
Yes,
And that number 5 in their system is highest or lowest?
that's the highest.
It
For
is the-
security, so it means it's the most, that's a good number for us.
It's the
Fi-
worst.
It's the worst, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know how to
Yeah,
describe
thank
that,
you,
yeah.
Cleve. I'm
The
going,
most points
they-
you could get
They
on
literally
that out of
use
the 5.
tape down the floor to divide prisoners from good people and bad people. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't have that much faith in 3M, but
Right. So that was expected, that,
yeah, it's more like a 9 or a 19. I mean, it's ridiculously unsafe.
yeah. So 5 was the highest score you
know.
could get there,
Okay.
and that's why I was saying, we only got a 2.7 out of 5 on physical condition, so.
Okay, so I think we have concurrence that, I'm not in love with any of the wording that's in the draft. If you want to make it more pointed and more towards Placerville, I think it's appropriate. My comment just to the public would be that there is some mention in here about the Western Placerville Interchange Project, and while that hopefully will someday benefit a courthouse facility, it is still going to serve, to me, a lot of important things that don't have anything to do with the courthouse, and that is a huge tax producer, which is Diamond Lumber Company. I'm sure their big trucks will welcome both Rebecca's off-ramp and soon to hopefully also be an on-ramp. The deliveries that come out of that yard to building projects in this county are tremendous tax generators for Placerville. The park and ride facility is replacing a horrible dump of a park and ride that's over by, gosh, surprise, the fairgrounds. That totally needs to be repaved, totally unsafe, it's not lit, et cetera. So that's a huge benefit for the commuters that come and go from Placerville every day. So let's not forget that. And I also see a tremendous lot of traffic from the county offices. I mean, it's the library and the county offices. Why shouldn't the bridge have ramps? So I hope I don't hear anybody say, oh, well, the Placerville put that in just for the courthouse. No, we did not. At least I didn't. So
Well, it
anyway,
helped, I think, push
is
it
there a
forward.
motion to authorize this letter?
Well, several of you have said you're not really thinking this is wonderful. Do we
But-
want to offer some suggestions? What do we want to see different if we?
Or just give them to Cleve and get them to Cleve? Is that okay, Cleve? Do we need to have them discussed in public?
That's fine if you can get them to me tomorrow.
Okay, fair enough?
So I make
Fair
sure I
enough.
get it out,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Because I don't want to spend the time, it could get lengthy, don't you think, Kara?
It
I
says,
thought
it
the
says
draft was fine.
everything.
But, yeah, see,
It
she likes
sees
what's there.
everything we need, to say, so I don't think it's too
Yeah.
lengthy. They're going to read it.
I think they'll read it, and I think to follow up on Councilman Thomas's, I really do think we should go and try to meet with them.
I agree.
And it's one thing to send a letter, it's another thing to have to sit across from us and tell us, why we
Absolutely.
went
I
down
agree.
to the look where we're at today.
So is there a motion to authorize the letter?
I'll move to authorize the letter.
All right, is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Seconded by Councilmember Thomas. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And would we also ask direct staff to go ahead and look into facilitating a meeting between city representatives and the appropriate court organization?
Who's the lady that is she still?
She's not there
She's
anymore.
not there anymore? Because she was so helpful.
Well, she's not there anymore.
Okay.
All right, thank you all very much for that. It's an important project. It's still 10 years out. That's the other thing. No matter what happens, that is a long lead time project. Item 12.4, adopt a resolution authorizing staff to advertise plans, specs, and contract documents for bidding the construction of the Mosquito Road stabilization. And we get to hear from the city engineer, Ms. Neves. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Acuna, Vice Mayor Zaragoza, and council members. The item before you this evening authorizes staff to advertise and bid the construction contract documents for Phase 1 of the Mosquito Road Stabilization Project. Similar to what we experienced with repaving Main Street, it was discovered that the underground utilities within Mosquito Road from Clay Street to city limits are in need of repair and/or replacement to bring them into good working order and service life prior to paving Mosquito Road. Following the city's subsurface exploration and utility assessment, the Phase 1 scope of work was developed and includes replacement of approximately 1,800 linear feet of the undersized water main from a 2-inch to an 8-inch main, replacement of 11 water services, 4 new fire hydrants, 4 new sewer manholes, and a cast-in-place lining of 1,300 linear feet of the existing 8-inch sewer, It also includes replacement of approximately 3,000 square feet of failed pavement. This project also includes replacement of approximately 45 linear feet of 6-inch water main from Hawking Street Ferrari Court that is part of the CIP 41924 respectively. The tentative schedule is as follows. We're going to advertise the project on September 12th, which is this Thursday. Bid opening on the 3rd of October. Council award for the construction contract on the 22nd of October. Start construction in November with an estimated completion by February 2020. Phase 2, the long-awaited repaving of Mosquito Road, is anticipated to follow this project and advertise later in October or early November, with construction beginning after Phase 1 construction is complete. Staff's recommendations are summarized in the report before you, and that concludes staff's report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Are there any questions for staff at this point? The information presented? No, and thank you very much. I'll open the public comment on this item. Is there any member of the public wishing to address item 12.4, the beginning of a much-needed Mosquito Road stabilization and improvement project?
Sue Rodman, member of the Measure H&L Committee, and going through Rebecca's report and seeing just how many times the Measure H&L Committee has put this one forward and said, yes, we need to do it, yes, we need to do it, yes, we need to do it. And so I think Rebecca's worked really hard to pull this together into the best possible project. And if we could have had PG&E cooperate with us about 2 years ago, we would have been much further along than we are now. But it is what it is. Murphy does live in Placerville, so I think we need to go ahead and get her done.
Thank you, Sue. Is there another member of the public wishing to address the council on item 12.4? Seeing no one else approaching the podium, I'll close public comment on 12.4, bring it back to the council for discussion and action. I had a question for our city engineer. I ask this frequently. This work is not part of what's tied up with PG&E's issue. Is that correct?
You are correct. So the work in reference with PG&E is the Placerville Station 2 project, which is located from approximately US Highway 50 headed north to Clay Street. Clay Street, then the dividing line between this project and that project is the Clay Street intersection. So Clay Street headed out towards city limit is the project limits for this project. So there will be some work on the segments of the water main between Clay to Dimity, and then from Dimity to the city limits. That's where the majority of the upsizing for the line will be, actually. And then as far as construction goes, timing-wise, between the two projects, they are going to be delivered. Actually, we'll have 3 separate contracts. This Phase 1 contract will be one construction contract. Phase 2 will be the repaving. And then the Placerville Station 2 project will be a separate contract as well. That's covered with federal and local funds on the Placerville Station 2 project.
And that last project that you just mentioned is the one that has been in a PG&E scheduling snafu for, what, about a year now?
Couple years, actually.
2 years, okay. And so that one will not happen until PG&E can provide the necessary design, et cetera.
Correct. The utility agreements are the critical path on that project. However, that is listed under agenda item 12.5, and I'm happy to cover that too at that time.
Coming up next. All right, thank you very much. Let's see, did I open public comment on this?
No.
All right, I will go ahead and open public comment on 12.4 and invite any member of the public that wishes to address the council. Did I? See? Well, are you still the same? Okay, good. Coming back.
Oh, that's right, yeah, because Sue talked.
I got all excited. They're awake now. All right, is there a member of the, we need a motion on this, then, if there's no other discussion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Borelli. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Kuna?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli? Aye. Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much, and thank you to staff for shepherding this along. Please stop finding things on this now. We need to actually get the pipes fixed and get that poor road repaired, but how stupid would it be to fix that road and leave something rotten in the ground? So what did you say? We're going from a 2-inch to an 8-inch water line?
Yes, sir.
That's just a little outdated, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
We could fight fire for maybe 30 seconds with a 2-inch water line. No.
Not even that.
This is just another example of the difficulties of our quaint little old town. All right, thank you, Rebecca.
Sure.
Moving on to 12.5, adopt a resolution approving amendment number 5 to the existing consulting agreement with GHD for additional engineering and design services for Placerville Station 2. Ms. Neves.
Good evening again. The item before you this evening approves an amendment with GHD Omni Means as the city's design consultant for the Placerville Station 2 project, CIP number 40708. This project will construct a new park and bus facility adjacent to the existing Placerville Station facility and will also include improvements to the El Dorado Trail, sewer and water improvements, and paving of Mosquito Road from US 50 to Clay Street. As you know, staff has been working on the project for some time and is now starting to see progression for the utility relocations necessary to build the project. For the sake of efficiency, approval of this amendment will allow the project to be ready to list for advertisement and bidding by including the work with PG&E and those necessary revisions within the plan specs and estimate to obtain a Caltrans encroachment permit for the construction. Both items of work are critical path to delivering the project. The tentative schedule is as follows. Utility agreements would be processed around October of this year. Council approval to release the project for bidding is estimated to be in December. Bid opening is scheduled for January of 2020. Award of the construction contract is estimated for February of 2020. And the start of construction is estimated for March with an estimated completion of July 2020. Staff's recommendations are summarized in the report before you, and that concludes staff's report. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
And some of those I've already asked, huh?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions from council at this time? All right, I'll open the public comment on this. Is there any member of the public wishing to address the council on 12.5? The city clerk will note that Sue Rodman is approaching the podium. Good evening, Sue.
Good evening. Sue Rodman, Measure H and Measure L again. This is tied to the project just before it, and we really need to get both of these so that they can be coordinated. Rebecca's done an amazing job to pull them all together so that they could be coordinated and work. And so I think, yes, this is something else that we need to do. As Rebecca says, critical path, it really is a critical path. You do have to have all those design things done first. And this is another one, well, this is another part of where Murphy lives in Placerville, so we need to get her done.
Thank you, Sue. Is there another member of the public wishing to address the council on 12.5? Seeing no one else approaching the podium, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the council for action. Somebody like to make a motion? If there's no other discussion?
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Someday, this is actually a really beautiful realignment project. If we can ever get certain parties to do their part, it really will make that a much, much safer and attractive area. And there'll be a whole lot of folks in the city and in the county that'll be appreciating it. So, baby steps. We're getting there. All right, let's see. We have 25 minutes before our time certain item. Let me talk with my city attorney for a moment, just please. We could continue with 13, 14, 15, but what fun would that be if we could go back to, I'm wondering if we could do 11.1, if there'd be any sense in that. We could maybe, if we, look at that look I'm getting. If we move through council reports, now then, there will be some members of the council that are going to have to recuse themselves, so we could actually get that portions of the meeting done. Would you concur, Mr. Driscoll? I'll just move on.
In terms of not moving into the merits?
Without going into 11.1 and 2.
Exactly, yes.
Yes.
So if there's issues that we need to deal with preliminarily, such as recusal of a council member, then we can do that.
Okay, well, what we'll do then is we'll move on to item 13. Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. Always great to have you up here. Briefly, council member, because it wouldn't be bad to have a break before 7:30 either. Any brief council members, the Transit Authority? Yes, I was there. Kara, did you Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we approved the labor agreement.
Yes, we
That
did.
was a long
We have
time in the works.
Long time in the
So-
works. We have a 2-year agreement with the drivers.
It was a long time in the works, and it was a short-term agreement. So
Yeah,
we
2 years,
appreciate
8 months of which are gone.
Yeah.
But there's no retroactive, so, thank you. And of course, Councilmember Borelli was there to lead the charge as the Transportation Commission.
I was there.
Show a
And
little
it
more
was a
enthusiasm,
charge.
please.
I was half there.
Yeah, you ducked out.
I took Councilmember Thomas's place so that he could attend to more important business, which indeed he
Well, we
did.
did have a transportation meeting, and it was very short and sweet, except when we got to the last item, which was a
2 hours late.
Yeah, it's a presentation. There's project being proposed for the Coloma Lotus area, and it involves a couple of roundabouts, and I think half of Lotus and Coloma turned out to talk about it. And so it was very lengthy, very informative. I think that we had some, all staff was there and presented, and I think what the public did find out is that we were not there to make a decision. It was just an informational item, really. And I think they did get a lot of information, got a lot of their questions answered, so hopefully. Along the transportation too, and maybe, Mark, you were already going to talk about this, but I saw in the news tonight at the last minute as I was leaving that the Echo Summit
Was canceled.
was canceled, so I thought we should mention that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? No, so
It's not canceled, I shouldn't say that, it's
Well,
delayed.
actually,
It's going to be, it's delayed.
Caltrans had a meeting here just last week regarding an upcoming closure for Echo Summit, and that would be their last phase of the completion there at the narrow bridge work. And what they have decided is to delay that project until 2020. So there will be no closure in October of this year, which was their plan.
And
I don't know what caused them to change, but they have changed it.
Well, the news
so.
said that it was because they couldn't get, that one of the companies that was furnishing them with some important.
Yes.
Pillars?
The girders.
Girders,
Girders.
okay. Yeah.
Girders.
Anyway,
Yeah, I
they're not ready, and
understood
so
that they
had
were
to-
being made in Utah,
I
I
don't
want
know,
to say.
someplace.
And they were
They're not.
logistics issues, so order your parts ahead, I guess, is the order there. Thank you, Patty. LAFCO has been in and out with some business dealing with the fire district consolidations. There was kind of a premature meeting about a week and a half ago, but it's really up to the fire district boards out in the varying outlying areas to meet first before it would be appropriate for LAFCO to get involved. So we're basically back to summer off at LAFCO. SACOG, Vice Mayor Saragosa, do you have any comments this evening?
Just quickly, we were able, there's about $1 million program for all of the, just forgetting the name, but the one that Wendy and Councilman,
Yes.
the Civic Lab, yes, Civic Lab 2. So there was some concern about the programming of, there wasn't really dollars attached to the second year. But, so we have, in this last meeting, we basically put forward, there'll be at least $1 million available for Civic Lab 2. And then there was an additional $500,000 that myself and Director Saylor from Yellow County thought would be better spent putting into the Civic Lab 2. And as opposed to, there was sort of this amount, kind of backfilling almost staff time to deal with some of the, I guess, expert work that would go into these. And we thought that money would be better used programmed into the direct projects. And so staff's going to come back to us with a revised budget, but we expect that $1 million to go up, hoping to get at least another $250,000 plugged into that so that we could do some real things. And so I'm happy to report on that. So we should be getting some money back here for what we're doing along Broadway, and hopefully a little bit extra that we were able to fight for there. So I thought that was pretty good news coming out.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your continued fight to bring those dollars back here. We've had let's see, Councilmember Borelli, Fire Safe Council.
Yes, two members from the Fire Council, Marion Washburn and Chris Keene, I hope I'm saying her name what's your name?
Cleve?
Met with Cleve and I, and had a very productive meeting, I thought, and discussed the continued work with the fire council, the city, and what we expected from each other. And the main thing right now is getting information out, because it's getting way into the season. So we want to just keep people aware and make sure that they're preparing and for next year. And Chris came up with some really great pamphlets that we're going to try to distribute to everybody. And we're going to send out information in the water bill. Can you think of anything else that I'm missing?
That's pretty much it. Chris is going to help us with the revising our draft guidelines that we presented to you with the ordinance. So we're going to work together on that. She's going to do some work on that and then get back with us. We'll meet again and try and get those to a more of a final state that we can be prepared to distribute to the public also. So.
And I think the only other thing is what we keep reading about and hearing about is this insurance problem that we're all suffering through. And I'm not too sure what's going on in Sacramento. Maybe, Mike, you know more than I do, but it doesn't, I mean, you know, they're all presenting bills, but bills are not going to help us with what we're all going through right now, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see anything, certainly nothing this year.
Right.
At best, we'd see something maybe for 2021 by the time something rolls out.
In the meantime, the insurance companies are demanding that we're cutting down our entire, I mean, they want to turn us into a concrete jungle as far as I'm concerned, so.
Yeah, they're just wholesale counseling.
All right. Patty, when's the next meeting and where are they meeting? Please, Fire Safe Council?
They meet the third Thursday of the month at the Veterans Hall.
At the Veterans Hall.
5 o'clock.
At 5 p.m. So,
Is it 5 or 5:30? 5:30? 5:30.
5:30. I'm seeing up and downs in it, yes. So 5:30 on
And
the
we
third
really
Thursday.
want everybody to come. We really want input.
Absolutely. Everybody is invited, and they do have a growing library of great information that is focused to communities like Placerville. So you don't have to sit through stuff that does not relate to us. So kudos to them for all the hard work they've been doing this entire year. 2x2 meeting. I believe we're working on trying to schedule one, and that is tentatively scheduled for, yes, Mr. Thomas.
10th?
10th, I believe it is.
Early October.
All right, so, all right. Yeah, let's see. Thank you very much. That takes us to item 14, request for future agenda items. Are any council member requesting a future agenda item this evening?
No, but I think I did request something, but I would like to thank whoever was responsible for painting those curbs up on Broadway that I requested last time. Boy, I couldn't believe it. The next day they were painted. That was great. And you can go down.
Future agenda items? Okay, yeah. I want to say that was done just perfect timing.
Perfect.
Because with Apple Hill and the recent, like with the wine event, that was all painted red, and there would have been people parked there.
Yep.
So, nice job, Cleve. Paint it red. All right. This brings us on to an exciting, Mr. Rivas, I should have warned you we were getting to this item, item 15, City Manager and Staff Reports. Item 15.1, a parklet report. Good evening, Pierre. How are you this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. If you recall, this item had gone through numerous hearings before the Planning Commission and the City Council approving the ultimate design of the parklet that currently exists on Main Street at the Creekside Place. That parklet was funded through a $10,000 grant that El Dorado County Health and Human Services received, and it was constructed, and it's a demonstration parklet, meaning that both city and county staff would monitor the parklet, its use, and try and get a sense of whether it was success and whether a parklet could be something that could be made more permanent. Part of that involved a survey that was conducted by the county staff, and they actually prepared a written report that quantified and qualified both results from that survey of the public and also anecdotal comments from both city, county staff and the public. So basically from staff's perspective, I think the parklet has been a very good success. It's constantly in use. There hasn't been any issues or complaints about the parklet. It's nice to see it hasn't been vandalized. In fact, it's been embellished with artwork, and one of the local restaurants actually put additional seating within the parklet, and it always seems to be full, especially when the weather is nice and not too hot. The parklet will remain there until through the end of October, and then the parklet will be removed and stored, and possibly, hopefully, it'll come back through another temporary use permit. Anyways, that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you very much, Pierre. Are there any questions for Mr. Rivas? I just had one. Pierre, do you have any idea where it's going to be stored? Whose responsibility that is?
That is a responsibility with the county. I'm assuming that they're going to store it probably in their facilities yard in one of their buildings. Okay. The parklet was constructed in a manner that allows it to be dismantled into smaller pieces.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Karen, I'm sorry, did you have a question? No. All right. This isn't a public item, but I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's any member of the public that wants to just comment on item 15.2, Mr. Rivas's update on the status of the parklet, the fact that it will be removed at the end of this October.
Sue Rodman, again. And I like the parklet. I have noticed one thing. I think if we moved it to the other side of the crosswalk, it would improve the safety, because as you're coming down Main Street, the parklet sits before you get to that crosswalk, and it's difficult to see pedestrians that are coming out from the parklet. So if it were on the other side of the pedestrian crosswalk, I think that would improve safety.
Thank you, Sue. Good comment. Any other member of the public wishing to comment on Mr. Rivas's report? Seeing no one else approach the podium, I'll close comment on that. Thank you. That was just an informational item. Are there any other staff reports this evening, Clave? Chief, did you have anything for us this evening? Thank you, sir. All right, well, I am not going to go through upcoming items. What I will do is I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting until 7:30, at which time, before we adjourn the meeting, I'm going to go ahead and ask if there are any council members that need to recuse themselves from item 11.1 or 11.2.
Mayor, I need to recuse myself from 11.1 and 11.2.
Very good. And is there any other council members? Mr. Driscoll, could you share with us any observations that you have as regarding?
Well, I think that Councilmember Taylor is recusing herself in an abundance of caution, having made some comments regarding formula businesses and fast food businesses in our ordinance, and the fact that her employment is with a restaurant operation that's within less than probably 300 feet of the proposed, that there could certainly be the appearance of impropriety, of a conflict there if she were to continue, and so I think that's appropriate she's doing what she's doing. The only other council member that potentially would have an issue would be Council Member Thomas, who operates a business within 300 feet of the proposed project. He doesn't own the property, so it's not that real property exclusion would apply, nor does his business compete with the proposed applicant's business. So I don't believe there's a conflict there.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John. I appreciate that. And Councilmember Taylor, thank you very much. And given the status of where we are in the meeting, I will just assume that we will see you at our next meeting.
Yep.
Because we have got everything else done.
She says smiling.
All right. And thank you for the clarification on Dennis's ability to participate in the upcoming discussion. All right. We will re-adjourn at 7:30.